Millionaire CEO needs a fake fiancée for a business deal. He's shocked when she steals everyone's heart, including him. You're out of your mind. Find someone to replace you in an hour. Ryan's voice thundered across the marble foyer, echoing off the high ceilings of the Caldwell estate. He was pacing near the grand staircase, phone pressed tightly to his ear. No, Jessica, this is not just another party. This is the last birthday my grandmother might ever have. He paused, jaw clenching as the call ended abruptly. The screen read, "Call ended." He closed his eyes and let out a low breath, dragging a hand through his thick chestnut hair. His custom-tailored suit, crisp and perfect, now clung a little too tight with the weight of panic. Jessica, his ex-girlfriend, had agreed weeks ago to pretend to be his fiancée. Just for this one night, just for the sake of a dying woman's wish and a crucial merger deal that depended on keeping up the perfect image. Now she was gone. "Sir, A splash, a gasp. Ryan turned sharply. By the breakfast bar, a young woman stood frozen, a tray at her feet, orange juice puppling around the silver base. Her apron was crooked, her hands trembling. Wide, startled eyes met his. Her name was Lily. He remembered her from the quick agency hire last week, just a temp, helping prep for the party. "I'm sorry," she stammered, bending down to gather broken glass. "I didn't mean, it's fine," he said quickly, striding over and crouching beside her. "Don't worry about the juice." She blinked, surprised by the softness in his tone. "I'll clean it up right away." He looked at her then, really looked, bun, flushed cheeks, hands scraped from where the tray had fallen. She was clearly overwhelmed, clearly not meant to be in the middle of any social charade, and yet, his grandmother's voice rang in his head. "I don't want some glamorous trophy. I want someone who loves you, really loves you." Ryan stood silent, watching her mop up the mess with napkins. "Lily, right?" She nodded, cheeks pink. "Yes, Mr. Caldwell." He hesitated. The storm behind his eyes seemed to still for just a moment. "This is going to sound insane," he said slowly, carefully, "but I need your help for just a few hours." Her brow furrowed. "Help how?" He exhaled. "I need you to pretend to be my fiancé. Just for today, just for this party. I'll explain everything." Her mouth opened, then closed again. "You want me? Why?" "Because I don't have anyone else right now, and because you're here. And because you don't know me well enough to lie." Lily's eyes widened. "That's not exactly a compelling reason." He laughed, short, nervous. "It's all I've got." "I'm not good at pretending," she whispered. "I spilled juice, and that makes you perfect." She stared at him like he had completely lost his mind. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal," he said, voice lower now. "Not just for me, my grandmother. She's not well, and she told me she won't sign over the Caldwell Trust unless I find someone who truly cares. I was trying to fake that part, but maybe you don't have to fake it, just be kind, be yourself." Lily swallowed hard. "What if I mess it up?" "I'll take care of it," Ryan said softly. "All you have to do is smile and maybe hold my hand once or twice." She bit her lip. Her eyes went to the elegant clock on the wall. 11:05. The party started in 55 minutes. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll do it." Ryan blinked. "You will?" She nodded. "But only because you ask. Like you actually needed me, not like you were doing me a favor." And for the first time that morning, Ryan smiled. A real one. Not for cameras, not for deals. For her. The dress didn't fit quite right. The hem was a little too long, the neckline a bit too modest, and the zipper snagged halfway up. But Lily stood in front of the tall mirror in one of the unused guest rooms of the Caldwell estate, her breath catching. It was the nicest thing she had ever worn. Soft cream chiffon, vintage lace around the cuffs. Borrowed from a forgotten costume rack in the theater room. She smoothed the fabric with trembling fingers. One night, she told herself. Just one night. In the mirror, her reflection looked like someone else. But beneath it, her chest thudded with a familiar weight. The medication had been running low. Her last cardiology appointment confirmed what she'd already known. Without surgery, the odds were against her. She hadn't told anyone. What was the point? A knock on the door pulled her back. "Lily?" Ryan's voice, muffled, but close. She opened the door. His eyes widened. "You look—" He trailed off. Not polished, not glamorous, but real. She gave a shy smile, like someone pretending to be someone else. "No," he said. "Like someone people might believe in." Downstairs, the party had begun. The grand hall was glowing. String lights looped over the wooden beams, soft jazz playing from the grand piano in the corner. Guests in tailored suits and evening gowns mingled over champagne flutes, servers weaving gracefully between them. Ryan stepped beside her as they entered. She felt every gaze turn their way. His hand found hers. "You okay?" he asked under his breath. She nodded, barely. "Just pretending." They began the slow circuit around the room. Ryan introduced her with gentle pride. "My fiancée, Lily." She smiled politely, curtsied once by mistake, laughed too loudly at a joke she didn't understand. But each time she faltered, Ryan steadied her with a glance, a touch, a breath. When the room grew too loud, she slipped away, escaping through a narrow corridor toward the kitchen. She needed air, needed silence. Inside, the kitchen was buzzing with staff, but she wasn't noticed, just another girl in an old dress. So she rolled up her sleeves and started helping the pastry chef arrange strawberries on a tray of tarts. "You with the Caldwell party?" the chef asked. Lily nodded. "Brave woman," he muttered, then chuckled. She laughed. "It's just one night." But she stayed. She stirred caramel, she folded napkins, she listened as the sous chef vented about burnt crusts and last-minute menu changes, and when a young waiter spilled a tray of hors d'oeuvres, she was the first to kneel and help him clean up. Back in the hall, Ryan had noticed her absence. When he found her, halfway into a conversation with the gardener about tomatoes, he didn't interrupt, he just watched, and something softened in his chest. Later that evening, the family gathered in the drawing room for speeches and cake. His grandmother, seated in her favorite velvet armchair, observed every moment in silence. When Ryan brought Lily over to greet her, the old woman took Lily's hand and held it gently. "So," she said with a faint smile. "You're the one," Lily's voice trembled. "Yes, ma'am, I'm honored to meet you." The old woman studied her face, her hands, her eyes, and then looked at Ryan. "Different than the others," she said quietly. "This one doesn't pretend." Ryan opened his mouth but had no reply. Lily looked down, unsure if she should smile or apologize. The old woman squeezed her hand. "Keep her close," she said to her grandson, her voice suddenly sharp. "She's not here for the money, she's here for you." And for the first time that night, Lily stopped pretending. Because she realized someone saw through it all and still didn't look away. Breakfast at the Caldwell estate was served sharply at 8. Not 5 minutes before, not 5 minutes after. The table stretched long beneath a vaulted ceiling, where sunlight filtered through stained glass windows. Lily sat at the edge of a velvet cushioned chair, trying not to slouch, trying not to breathe too loudly. Toast crackled as the server placed it just so beside her plate. Across from her, Ryan scrawled through emails. To his left, his grandmother, Eleanor Caldwell, sipped black coffee with the precision of a woman who once ran Wall Street conversations with a single eyebrow lift. Lily stirred her tea in silence, her fingers brushing the porcelain rim. This world, this house, with its antique chandeliers and library wings, was not hers. But she had promised to play the part. For Ryan. For the paycheck she hadn't dared ask about yet. For the surgery she might never get in time. Later that day, she found herself in the kitchen, where the cook, Martha, was struggling with a creme brulee recipe for the upcoming charity gala. "They'll say it's too sweet," Martha muttered, slamming a spoon into the counter. "Want to try flan?" Lily offered gently, tying back her hair. "My gran used to make it with just 4 ingredients and a lot of patience." By noon, they were laughing. Lily stirred while Martha watched, learning. They poured the mixture into ramekins, tucked them into the oven, and when the caramel cracked just right, Martha hugged her. "That's the first real smile I've had in weeks," she said. In the afternoon, Lily folded linen napkins into little swans and left one at each staff member's place setting in the break room. She wasn't trying to charm anyone. She just liked to leave small joys behind, like breadcrumbs, in case the day turned bitter. She didn't know Ryan had seen her, standing barefoot on the back patio, tossing breadcrumbs to birds with the gardener, or kneeling to retie the scuffed sneaker of the housekeeper's grandson who'd come to visit. But he had, from his office window, every day for a week. One morning, Lily helped polish the sitting room with Eva, one of the older maids. They were laughing over folded doilies when Eleanor entered. "Eva," she said, voice cool, "could you give us a moment?" Eva nodded and slipped out. As Eleanor moved toward the window, she gave a small sudden cough, followed by a startled drop of her wrist. A jade bracelet clattered to the floor. It rolled once, stopped near Lily's foot. She paused, glanced at Eleanor's face, which betrayed nothing, and bent to pick it up. With both hands she polished it gently on her sleeve, then held it out. "I think this belongs somewhere more precious than the floor, ma'am." Eleanor arched a brow. "Most people," she said, "would pocket it, at least for a moment, just to test the odds." Lily smiled, quiet but certain. "Then maybe I'm not most people." They stood that way for a moment, the bracelet a bridge between them. Eleanor took it back slowly. Then, without a word, turned and left the room. That night, in the quiet of the reading room, Eleanor approached Ryan where he sat by the fire, a novel open on his lap but unread. "That girl," she said, her voice more thoughtful than he'd ever heard it. She didn't blink when a fortune was at her feet. Ryan closed the book, eyes on the fire. "She's not here for anything but the moment," he said, "and maybe not even that." Eleanor looked at him long and hard. Keep her close. Another evening, Lily sat at the baby grand piano in the drawing room. Her fingers moved clumsily over the keys, tracing old lullabies. Eleanor sat in her armchair, wrapped in a shawl. No staff, no guests, just them. Lily hesitated mid-note. "You want me to stop?" "No," Eleanor said. "I haven't heard that song since my brother went to war." They sat in silence, the music soft as breath. Then Eleanor asked, out of nowhere, "What do you want from all this, truly?" Lily turned to her, startled. "From the house? The party?" "No," Eleanor said. "From this life. From being—" Here, Lily looked down at her hands, then up again, eyes unflinching. "To be seen," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Even if just once, as someone more than her past." Eleanor didn't answer right away. She just reached for the edge of her shawl and pulled it tighter. It was the first time in years anyone had spoken to her that way, not in fear, not with flattery, just truth. And in that moment, Lily wasn't a guest, or a lie, or even a fiancée for hire. She was simply someone who belonged. The days that followed felt strangely rough. Natural. Ryan, always a man of order and distance, found himself scheduling his meetings around tea hours and book sessions in the sunroom. Lily had that effect, subtle, like warmth that crept in without knocking. She didn't try to impress anyone, least of all him, and yet, every time she walked into a room, the air changed. Their fake engagement had taken on a rhythm. They sat side by side planning the engagement party, discussing flowers, music, guest lists. Ryan suggested white orchids. Lily suggested sunflowers. "They're too cheerful," he argued. "Exactly," she smiled, and he agreed. One afternoon, Lily helped Eleanor reorganize the vast library in the West Wing. Dozens of books had gathered dust over the years, many unopened since Eleanor's late husband had passed. "You don't have to do this," Eleanor had said, watching Lily climb the ladder. "I want to," Lily replied, brushing cobwebs from a hardcover. Stories deserve to be read, even the forgotten ones. By dusk, Lily was sitting cross-legged on the rug, reading aloud from a battered classic. Eleanor rested in a chair nearby, listening with closed eyes. Halfway through a sentence, Lily stumbled on a line and made a silly face. Eleanor laughed, sharp and sudden. It was the first time in over 6 years that sound had filled the room. Ryan walked in at that exact moment and froze in the doorway. Lily looked up, surprised, and Eleanor simply said, "Your fiancé has excellent taste in literature." Later that night, Lily stood by the window in her room, one hand over her chest. The pain had started as a dull throb, but now it pulsed harder, sharper. Her breath hitched. She sat down, tried to steady herself, but the pressure built quickly. Her hands trembled. A knock came. "Lily?" Ryan's voice. She tried to answer but couldn't speak, just a low whimper. The door opened. One look, and Ryan was by her side. Her face was pale, lips tinged gray. "What's wrong?" he asked, kneeling. "Tell me what's happening." She clutched his arm, trying to shake her head. He didn't wait. Scooping her into his arms, he strode down the hallway, shouting for the driver before they even reached the stairs. The rain was falling when they pulled out of the Caldwell gates. Lily curled against him in the back seat. Her breaths came shallow. Ryan kept speaking, calmly, firmly, his hand over hers. At the hospital, they rushed her inside. A flurry of nurses, a gurney, bright lights. Ryan stood back only when forced to, and even then he stayed at the door, fists clenched. Hours passed. He sat in a plastic chair in the hallway, coat soaked through, hair a mess. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. He didn't move when a nurse brought him coffee, just stared at the pale green wall across from him, heart pounding. Why do I care this much? He asked himself. She was supposed to be a temporary solution, a performance, a name and a contract, and yet he remembered her laughing with Eleanor, humming as she arranged books by color, the way she smoothed the napkins at breakfast without anyone asking her to. He remembered how she touched the jade bracelet and returned it without a flicker of greed. He remembered how she looked when she thought no one was watching. Quiet, tired, but unafraid to be kind. When the doctor finally stepped out, Ryan stood so fast his chair clattered back. "She's stable," the doctor said. "Minor arrhythmia episode. We're monitoring her overnight, but she'll be fine." Ryan exhaled deeply, almost painfully. "Can I see her?" The doctor nodded. Inside, Lily looked small against the white sheets. Her hair was damp with sweat. A monitor beeped steadily beside her. She stirred when he entered, blinking groggily. "You stayed," she whispered. "Of course I did," he replied, stepping closer. "You didn't have to." "Yes," he said quietly, pulling a chair to her bedside. "Yes, I did." She smiled faintly, her eyes filled with something Ryan couldn't name, but felt down to the marrow, and as he reached for her hand, gently lacing his fingers through hers, he knew the truth. This wasn't pretend anymore. The morning was soft with fog, dew still clinging to the roses outside the conservatory windows. Inside, Lily sat beside Eleanor, her hands trembling slightly as she poured tea. Her chest felt tight, not from illness, but from the truth she could no longer hold inside. "I think," she began, her voice barely louder than the steam rising from the teacup, "there's something I should tell you." Eleanor looked up from her knitting, brows lifted, quiet but attentive. The older woman always had a way of listening that made silence feel sacred. Lily's fingers curled around the handle of her cup. "I have a heart condition, a rare one. I was born with it, but it got worse the last few years. I've been on a transplant list for over a year." The words sat heavy in the air, too solemn for such a peaceful room filled with the scent of lavender and warm sunlight. "I didn't plan to stay long," Lily continued, her voice shaking. "This arrangement with Ryan, it was supposed to be temporary, just a few days. I thought I could help him, earn a little money for treatment and leave before it got harder." She paused. Eleanor said nothing, just waited, hands still, needles resting quietly on her lap. "I didn't expect this house to feel like home," Lily whispered. "Or you, or Ryan, or the staff who treat me like family. I didn't expect any of it. And now?" Eleanor asked softly, her voice like the whisper of silk on silk. Lily looked up, tears shining. Now I don't want to go. For the first time, I want to live, not just survive. I want mornings. I want music in the afternoon. I want to learn what love feels like before it's too late. I want time to matter. A long silence stretched, the kind that felt more like holding breath than emptiness. Then Eleanor reached over, her hand warm and firm atop Lily's. "My dear," she said, "you matter already. You've brought more light to this house in a few weeks than I've felt in years. You made me laugh again. You made Ryan soften. You've reminded this home what kindness looks like." Lily sniffled, trying to smile through it. "But I don't know how much time I have left." Eleanor gave a slight smile. "None of us do. But most people live like they'll never run out. You're already doing more with each day than people with decades ahead. If this is your beginning, it's a beautiful one." Just outside the conservatory, Ryan had come to ask Lily about the engagement menu. He paused, hand half raised to knock, and froze as the words reached him. "I want to live, not just survive." It struck him like a stone to the chest. He stepped back into the hallway, out of view, breath caught. The truth hit hard. Lily was sick, and she hadn't told him. He leaned against the wall, jaw clenched. His mind flashed with moments. Her laugh echoing down the halls, her patient fingers arranging tea trays, her quiet way of holding the room together without asking for anything. His heart, the one he'd armored for years, cracked. He turned and walked slowly away, each step heavy with something he didn't want to name. Inside, Lily wiped her tears and stood, excusing herself gently. She needed space, air. But as she walked down the hallway, she sensed something had shifted, though she didn't know why. That evening, as the sky blushed lavender and gold, she returned to her room and found a bouquet on the floor by the door. Gardenias, her favorite. No card, only a note, handwritten, tucked between the petals. For someone who reminds the world what grace looks like. She pressed the note to her chest, and for a moment her heart fluttered, not from fear or pain, but something soft and inexplicable. In the study, Ryan stood at the window, watching dusk settle across the trees. He didn't turn when Eleanor entered, only tightened his grip in his pockets. "You heard?" she said. He nodded. And now? He turned, eyes darker than usual but filled with something raw. "Now I know I need her," he said, not for a contract, but because I can't see a future without her in it. And I don't want one. The estate glowed like a dream that morning, bathed in soft spring light. White lilies lined the path from the conservatory to the marble terrace, where rows of guests in fine attire sipped champagne. Lily stood inside the dressing room, her hands trembling slightly as she smoothed the pale, mist-colored gown over her hips. It fit like a sigh, soft, ethereal, nothing like the borrowed costumes of her past life. Today, even if it was still a performance, she felt like herself, or the self she wanted to be. Elena, the family housekeeper, fastened a tiny clasp at the nape of her neck, then stepped back, misty-eyed. "You look like someone a man would cross oceans for." Lily smiled nervously. He only had to cross the garden. Outside, Ryan adjusted the cuff of his tailored suit, the calm mask of a CEO on his face, but his heartbeat betrayed him, wild beneath the surface. When the music started, Lily stepped into the sunlight. Guests turned and a hush fell. Her presence, delicate and grounded all at once, silenced even the most skeptical. She walked toward Ryan with measured steps. Their eyes met halfway, his filled with something deeper than resolve, hers with something softer than doubt. They stood beneath the rose arch as the officiant began the usual words of pretense, reading from a script that was supposed to be just for show. But nothing about the moment felt false. Ryan took her hands in his, clearing his throat. "Before we do the formalities," he said, turning to address the crowd, "I want to say something." Whispers rustled. Phones were lowered. He turned back to Lily. This was meant to be a business arrangement, a temporary act, and I agreed to it thinking I could control everything, including how much it would mean. He paused, his voice catching. But I can't pretend anymore, because somehow through every moment we've spent, through your honesty, your kindness, the way you see people and let them be seen, you've changed everything. He pulled out the ring box, but didn't open it. I used to think love was a liability, that caring too much clouded judgment. But now, it's the only thing that's made anything clear. He turned fully to her, no longer speaking to the crowd, just her. This was meant to be fake, but I've never said anything more real. Lily's breath hitched. She stared at him, words gone, heart full, and for once, she didn't try to fight the tears. They rolled freely, grateful, overwhelmed tears, as she nodded. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it shimmered in the sun like a quiet promise. The crowd erupted into applause, but Lily heard nothing but the whisper of the wind and the beat of her own heart. Later, tucked behind the hedge with Lila on her lap, she whispered into the baby's ear, "It was supposed to be pretend, but somehow he made it home." And in the distance, Ryan stood speaking to an investor, but his eyes were only looking for one thing: her. The estate had never felt so quiet. The grand chandeliers still caught the morning light like frozen fireworks, and the scent of roses lingered in the halls. But the laughter, the clinking glasses, the gentle hum of a string quartet, all had faded into memory. The celebration, once carefully orchestrated as a staged engagement party, had become something else entirely, something real. But this morning, reality had come back in a different form. Lily stood by the large bay window in the guest room, suitcase at her feet. Outside, the garden was veiled in soft fog, curling like breath over the hedges. Her fingers rested gently on the ring still circling her finger, an unspoken promise that hadn't been taken back. She hadn't removed it since Ryan had slipped it there, eyes full of hope and trembling honesty. But today wasn't a beginning. Not yet. Today she was leaving. The call had come at dawn. A donor heart might be available. It was not guaranteed. It was never guaranteed. The evaluation would be intensive, the risk enormous. But if this was her match, and she missed it, there might not be another. She hadn't told Ryan. She had heard him moving about earlier, his footsteps pausing outside her door, then retreating. Maybe he knew. Maybe he didn't. Either way, her chest ached with everything unspoken. Downstairs, the family had gathered quietly in the drawing room. Even Eleanor, who rarely rose before mid-morning, sat upright in her favorite chair, a shawl across her shoulders and something wrapped in linen on her lap. The fireplace was lit, casting a soft glow on the walls, but no one spoke until Lily descended the stairs. As she appeared, everyone stood. Ryan's sister Audrey took a step forward, voice gentle. "You really going?" Lily nodded. Her voice caught in her throat, so she smiled instead, soft, small, the kind that tried not to shake. Beverly, the cook, bustled forward and pressed a tin into Lily's hands. "It's the chamomile you liked," she said briskly, though her eyes glistened. "Hospitals never get it right." Then Eleanor stood, slow, deliberate, every movement still full of the quiet dignity that had once terrified Lily. But now, her expression was something entirely different. Open, vulnerable, almost maternal. She walked to Lily and extended a handkerchief. White linen, delicate lace edges embroidered with pale blue thread, the words stitched in careful cursive, "Come back. Home waits." Lily took it with both hands. She couldn't speak, couldn't trust herself to try. But the handkerchief trembled slightly as she held it, and Eleanor gently placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. Ryan wasn't in the room. Lily didn't ask where he was. She already knew where she needed to go. She climbed the stairs again, past the room that had become hers and into Ryan's study. It smelled faintly of cedar and old books, and the smoke from the fire he'd lit the night before. His desk sat in order, always meticulously tidy. She slid into the leather chair and pulled a single sheet of paper from the drawer. Her pen scratched softly against the page. The words came slowly, carefully, like exhaling a life. When she finished, she folded the letter and tucked it beneath the small brass paperweight that had always intrigued her, shaped like a compass, forever pointing north. The letter read, "Ryan, if I don't make it, know this. You gave me more than days. You gave me. Before you, I was surviving. After you, I wanted to live. That's not something you can fake. Not something any contract can buy. Thank you for the music, the quiet, the space to be real. For Lila's giggles. For your grandmother's laugh. For never asking me to be anything but myself. I hope to come back. But if I don't, know that I loved you, with the time I had and the heart I could give. Always, Lily." She didn't cry as she closed the study door behind her, but as she walked past the kitchen where Beverly once sang, the hallway where Ryan once brushed flour from her cheek, and the dining room where Eleanor had laughed for the first time in years, Lily paused. She turned one last time, her eyes lingering on the staircase, on the windows, on the shadows that felt like home, and she carried it all with her, like a heartbeat beneath her coat. Home waits. The gravel path was just as she remembered it, winding, old, lined with hydrangeas in full bloom. But everything felt new. Lily stepped out of the car slowly, one foot grounding her back into the soil of a place she had not dared to dream she would return to. Her coat was drawn close against the crisp spring air, the scent of early blossoms mingling with the faint memory of rain on stone. 2 months. 2 long, aching, breathless months since she left for the hospital, not knowing if she would ever return, not knowing if her heart would hold out one more day, not knowing if she would open her eyes in the same world again. But now she was here, and the breath in her chest no longer felt borrowed, it felt earned. The front doors of the Caldwell estate opened. Ryan stepped out, a bouquet of hydrangeas in his hand, soft blue, like the skies they both used to watch from the library balcony, where silence had spoken more than words ever could. Her breath caught, shoulders trembling beneath the fabric of her coat. "You remembered?" she whispered, eyes shimmering. He nodded, eyes never leaving hers as he stepped down the stone steps, each footfall quiet but sure. "You once said hydrangeas are only beautiful if they're planted by hand," he said. "That they grow better when someone cares enough to put them in the earth themselves." He reached her, holding the bouquet out. Not grand, not overly arranged, just real. "So I planted these for your return." Lily held the flowers close, burying her face in them for a moment. The scent was soft, comforting, like something that had waited patiently for her to come back. The petals brushed her cheeks like welcome. Behind Ryan, the familiar figure of Eleanor appeared in the doorway, upright, poised, a cane now in her hand, but her spine still straight with grace. Her face didn't smile. Not yet. But her eyes glistened. "Welcome home," the older woman said, voice firm yet threaded with warmth. Lily blinked back tears. Her voice came out in a whisper. "I thought I was coming back for healing," she murmured. "But I think I'm coming back for home." Ryan's hand moved subtly, slipping into the pocket of his coat. He pulled out a small velvet box, deep navy, simple, honest. He didn't open it. He didn't kneel. He just held it between them, not like a proposal but like a question, an invitation. "This isn't about a business deal," he said quietly. "It never really was. And it's not about the ceremony either. It's about tomorrow, and the day after that. It's about you, if you still choose me." Lily looked at him, long and quiet. Her eyes searched his, but they were steady, softer than she remembered, but truer. Her free hand moved slowly to her chest, where, under the layers of fabric, a new heart beat. Strong. "Sure. I choose you," she said, her voice catching. And then, gently, she placed her hand over his, over the box still unopened. "For every beat. If this story stirred something in your heart, made you believe in the quiet power of kindness, the healing of love, and the beauty of second chances, then you're not alone. Lily and Ryan's journey wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing love in the middle of uncertainty and finding home not in a place, but in a person who sees you fully and still stays. If stories like this move you, uplift you, and remind you that the most powerful love often grows from the most unexpected places, don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. We're here to bring you tales that heal, inspire, and linger long after the last word. Because sometimes, one story can change the way you see everything.